それでは前半、3組目の、スピーカーの方は、マイク・エイブルソンさんです。よろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you for coming. 今日はちょっと英語で話します。Today I'd like to talk about accidents, functional accidents. When I think about accidents, usually I think about negative things, bad things like spilling milk or car accidents, other bad things like that. But recently I was taking a walk, hiking through the forest in Malaysia, and they have elephants in Malaysia, and the elephants are not easy to find, but their dung is easy to find actually. So I was trying to walk through the forest and avoid stepping in it to have another accident. And we were walking along, and all of a sudden there was one pile of dung right in the middle of the forest floor. And it was just these beautiful, shiny mushrooms growing out of them like this. I just couldn't believe it. I asked the person who we were hiking with, and he said that the elephants eat a lot of medicinal plants, and that this dung is the perfect place for the mushrooms to grow. It really blew me away. I wondered, do the elephants know about this? But they probably don't, I don't think. But you know, these kind of things happen in nature a lot. But in the things humans make, is it possible also for these sort of functional accidents to happen? Well, it turns out that it's actually pretty difficult to guide a missile to where you want it to go. Scientists, a while ago, invented this thing called an accelerometer. It helps to guide the missile to where it's going. And the exact same technology, the accelerometer, turned out to be about 30 years later or so, the essential piece of technology needed to make airbags. So this technology that was originally intended to destroy as much as possible, later on was used to save lives. So this kind of totally unforeseen function is actually pretty interesting. So also, this is a hishaku. It's a combination of a cup and a bucket. In Japan, they're commonly used for watering plants, but kids love this. It's the perfect combination of objects they love. They use it for all kinds of things, banging to make noise, or also a sling, catapult, who knows what they do with it. But so kids and scientists can do this, but what about the rest of us find these accidental functions? Every house in Japan has something called the getabako, which is, the geta is the traditional Japanese wooden clog. But even if you look in a getabako now, you're not likely to find any geta inside. It's sort of similar in a way to a car, the little box nearby the steering wheel. There is a glove compartment box. I've never seen a glove in a glove compartment box. And it's kind of funny, but I think these functions have changed over time by a lot of people. And the original function is only left in the name. So another object which seems to sort of ask for new functions to be invented are stationary. And I mean, I love rubber bands. We use them all the time for all kinds of things. I don't know what they're invented for, but they're great for flinging at people, as our kids often remind us. So I think stationary is also, there's a lot of new functions that sort of build up and sort of sprout from these objects. The bagel, is another one. It just seems to beg for new functions, I think. We were camping once, and another camper was coasting their bagels like this. And I don't think the people who made bagels originally thought of this. At least I've never seen it done before. Let's see. Ooh, I'm a little bit ahead. So also another area which really kind of encourages, it's not a simple object, but encourages a lot of function, is face masks. And when I first came to Japan about 10 years ago, I was impressed by how widely face masks are used. Now I use them all the time. I don't really think about it. But I've heard a lot of new functions or different functions that probably weren't intended, besides the obvious, for face masks. Things like, I have a little list, keeping your face warm in the wintertime, or you can keep your mouth open all day and no one will notice, to conceal your bad breath, to conceal your identity when you go out, also to keep pollen out. Even I know one person who wears his face mask when he hasn't had time to shave. So they have a lot of new functions that sort of sprout up around these objects. So these are things that have happened over a long period of time with a lot of people using them with face masks. But I thought it would be interesting if a company or an individual could actually use the process of discovering accidental, coincidental functions intentionally. So I really admire 3M for inventing the Post-it note. It was a really interesting story. It's a condensed version, as I understand it. One of their scientists, chemists, was trying to invent a very strong glue. He invented a glue that was very weak, it wouldn't stick permanently to anything. Then someone else in the company saw it and thought, oh, this would be a great non-slip bookmark that won't fall out. Those didn't do very well, but people began to write on them, and that was the beginning of the Post-it note that we all know and love. So I admire 3M for following that process. Another thing, I have to admit at this point, actually, my full-time job is not photographing elephant dung, as exciting as it was. But actually, I mostly design and run a company called Postoco, design items for it. One of the early items we made was this paper document holder, which now it's used for computers. And another item that we made early on was this business card holder, we made it after seeing the intense exchange of business cards in Japan. But overseas, it's mostly used as a small wallet. So I'd like to say that those things were intentional, but they weren't, totally accidental functions. So it sort of got me thinking, wouldn't it be possible, can it be possible to have accidental function be the core or an essential part of a new product? So we always have these stacks of paper around in the office, recycled paper. I want to use them. I never seem to be able to use all of them. So invented a new kind of clipboard where you punch holes in it. You can take the paper and bind it any way you want. So the paper, the person who's using it can choose the paper. So it almost encourages people to use whatever paper they want, the backside of copy paper or their own paper. And so far, it's been pretty interesting to see a lot of different uses for it. So that's encouraging. So the idea of accidental function, it's a pretty interesting, I just think that this is a pretty interesting way to approach new development of things. And so I guess if you look at all this, the things we talked about, things like what do all these things have in common? Elephant dung, bagels, missiles, face masks, and rubber bands have all in common. They're all these sites where accidental function kind of pop up like mushrooms around the log, or elephant dung, as it were. Oh, and actually I'm out of time, accidentally. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。Thank you.
Thank you very much.
後半に彼のプロダクトのことがちょっと出てきましたが、私も結構ステーショナリー大好きで、もしよろしかったらもう少しどこで、あなたのプロダクトが買えるとかもう少し教えていただければなと思います。
じゃあこれは日本語はできるかな。
ぜひ日本語でよろしくお願いします。
全部日本生産で作ってるんだけど、やっぱり東京周りに日本の職人さん、どっちかというと日本のトラディショナルな技術をなんか新しいものとか、特に和っぽくないものに活かせることができるっていうのは結構興味あってやろうとしてる。
ありがとうございます。今日はあまりスライドになかったですが、本当に一点物のすごい綺麗なストライプのノートとかたくさんありますので、もしよろしかったらホームページとか見ていただければなと思います。どうもありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。